everybody. Welcome to the Chicago, Burlington, and Quincy Railroad and the Chicago and Northwestern Railway in Wyoming. Today is October 3rd, 2025, and this is Layout Update number 71. I'm Mark Pruitt, Lie-Site Station Agent. There's a couple of things I want to talk about today before we get to the layout. First, 3 years ago this month, I started my Patreon page where those folks who are so inclined could make a small donation to support the channel. Their donations would help buy equipment to improve the production quality of the videos I produce. Thanks to their very generous support, I was able to procure a Runcam 2, a couple of very nice tripods, a couple of studio lights, which also come in handy at times when working under the layout, a teleprompter, and so on. If you go back and look at some of the earlier videos, you can see how much better the current videos are in comparison, largely thanks to that equipment. I'm still the same. The last planned purchase is the studio version of DaVinci Resolve, the editing software I use to produce these videos. I'll be buying that near the end of the year. With that, my list of planned purchases for the channel is complete, so as of this month, I'm shutting down the Patreon page. I'm indebted to all who became patrons. Your donations were a tremendous help. But as I said in the beginning, the Patreon donations were not about supporting my expenditures in the hobby. I can't in good conscience accept your money and spend it on my hobby purchases. You should be spending that on your own hobby purchases instead. But once again, thank you very much for your support over the last several years. The second thing, and I bring this one up because friends on the Model Railroader forums deserve an explanation as to why I'm not there anymore. I struggled with how much detail to go into here, and I finally decided not very much. I became the target of a few immature jerks like Charlie Hebdo 2, whose antics would make an ill-tempered 2-year-old roll his eyes in disbelief. I'm almost 70 years old. If I'm lucky, I'll be around for another 15 years. If very lucky, maybe 25. I no longer have the time or the patience for the kind of fatuous behavior these jackasses were exhibiting, and certainly no inclination to argue about it. I got tired of the whole thing and just walked away from the forum. I miss the interactions I had with the good people, but I simply won't be bothered by the childishness of the others anymore. Besides, a lot of the good people have already been jumping ship for exactly the same reason I did. For those interested, I'll put a bit more detail, but not too much more, in the description. Meanwhile, if you're interested, I can be found on the Model Railroad Hobbyist forums. Now on to the layout. In September, I ran nearly a quarter mile of thermostat wire around the layout for train order signals. I did just a little bit of work on the Cody branch and made some progress on the dispatcher's office. Let's go. Last month, I started running wire for the train order signals and building the dispatcher's closet. I continued running wires and hooking up signals into the second half of the month. I got very tired of crawling around under the layout. Fortunately, I was able to run most of the lines along the front edges, but still. I could have run the signal lines for the peninsulas across the big I-beam supporting the first floor of the house and dropped them down into the middle of the peninsulas, but I didn't want bundles of wire dropping from the skies down behind the backdrops. Instead, I ran them all the way around the outside edges of the layout. It took quite a bit more wire, but that way the wires were all bundled together and almost completely out of sight. For Lander and Hudson on the C&W, they ran under the upper deck. For the main deck, all the wires ran under Grable, Douglas, Casper, Powder River, and Shobon. Cables were terminated at each of these towns, plus a cable terminated at 2 points for the staging yard signals. From Shobon, one cable ran up to the upper deck and looped back to Riverton. This was easier than running it under the narrow shelf above Casper. For Cody, Vocation, and Thermopolis, the cables ran from Shobon right to those towns. Because Thermopolis is split by the furnace, the Thermopolis signal is duplicated at both sides of the furnace. For Worland, Powell, and Basin, the cables ran from Shobon along the wall between Thermopolis and Worland to each of the 3 towns. As I said, it was a lot of wire to run, but it wasn't really all that hard. The most difficult part by far was installing all the P-clamps that hold the cables to the bottom of the benchwork. I wired in each set of LED signals as I ran each cable, then tested them. A few spots were tight, but just after the middle of the month, all the cables were in and the signals wired on the layout. Here, both signals at Powder River are lit for testing, something you should never see when they're wired into the panel. Once the signals were all installed, I switched over to working on the Cody branch. I built the turnout for the west end of Vocation and went to install it. When I set a set of turnout ties where the turnout would go, I could see how the peninsula leg was right in front of the turnout, so that had to be addressed first. I added a new short leg to support the Vocation benchwork and moved the main deck leg inboard to behind where the Vocation backdrop will be. Then I was able to extend the main line to the west Vocation turnout with nothing to get in the way. The next day, I installed feeders for the Cody branch all the way back between Powell and Alkali Creek along the wall between Thermopolis and Worland on the main deck. After that, it was back to the dispatcher's office for a few days, but we'll finish up with the Cody branch first. Near Alkali Creek, I had the same problem with the leg in front of the line as I did at West Vocation. So like at West Vocation, I added a new short leg to the lower deck and moved the main deck leg inboard behind where the backdrop will be. This was on September 29th. I had one more spot like that, near East Vocation, right near the furnace wall. Same steps one more time, add a new short leg, and move the tall leg behind where the backdrop will be. I'll need to do some of the same sorts of leg adjustments on the Cody side of the peninsula, but in a few spots that will take a bit more creativity, I think. Now back to the dispatcher's closet. On September 26th, I cut, shaped, and installed the side frames for the signal panel. The next day, I added the top and bottom frame members, then clamped a 2x3 foot sheet of galvanized steel in place to see how it would fit. On the 29th, I had the final panel graphic finished. I had it printed and laminated at FedEx office. Now I could start building the... Hey, wait a minute, what's that? Holy cow, there's a bug in the graphic. I mean, a real bug. There's a tiny spider sandwiched into the laminate. The clerk at FedEx office and I had a good laugh. He'd never seen anything like that before. I brought the USB drive with the graphic file back in that afternoon, and on October 1st I had a brand new, bug-free version of the graphic. Now I can get started on the panel. And I will, just as soon as this video is finished. And believe it or not, that brings us to the end of another video. Short this month, a break for all you folks. I spent a lot of time on the layout, but nothing that takes much time to explain. The big focus in October will be completing the dispatcher's panel. That will be a big job. I hope to have it done in time for the operating session on the 21st, but that's a pretty ambitious goal, what with all the other stuff going on this month. Thanks for watching, everyone. Stay healthy, stay safe, and I'll see you next month. In late 2010, I began working in South Carolina. In early 2011, the change of work location became permanent, and I had to relocate from New Jersey permanently. After a little over a year in a rental property, during which I had no space to do any model railroading at all, we bought a large house in Allendale, South Carolina. By the last quarter of 2012, I had a new location for a layout, almost the entire second story of our 10,000 square foot house. I was in model railroading heaven. I took the rest of 2012 to create a general arrangement track plan for the new space. Just to give a sense of the size of this new layout, the overall length was 60 feet. It was 26 feet wide. This was right at twice the size of the New Jersey layout's footprint. As the calendar rolled into 2013, I was ready to start construction on this mammoth new undertaking. I had no idea that it would last only a couple of years. And that's the way it was at the end of 2012. Thank you and good night from all of us at CB&Q News.